Hello, lovely people. Excuse me for the darkness, it's already late. Today we'll be talking about imaging, staging, and basically all the stuff that is SQ about. So I decided to do this video. I didn't want to do this video in the very beginning because to me it sounded a bit maybe even too basic for the basic series. However, after I did a few videos explaining about the rear fill and the center channel and everything, I got a few comments that a little bit surprised me because some people will still imagine that a center of the stage is there, basically in front of you, in front of the steering wheel. So in this video, I'm going to try to explain to you what is the stage, the width, the depth, and that kind of the height and that kind of stuff. Basically, to have a perfect stage is a goal of SQ. Is basically that's what we're trying to do with the EQing, with crossovers and everything, with level matching. What we're trying to do is to make sure that our stage is as perfect as it can be. So probably you heard a phrase that is thrown around what people say, a phantom image or a phantom center. Basically that means that when you have two speakers, let's take just the mid-range just for this example, one mid-range there and one mid-range there. When you play them together and you have a song with a vocal in the very center, you will have that vocal coming from there. That is assuming that you have your EQ correct, all the levels matched, and the time alignment done correctly. Then you're going to have your phantom image right in the center that is in between the speakers. If you don't have it matched perfectly, your center can be literally anywhere. It can be to one side, it can be to the other side, it can be right in front of your steering wheel, wherever you want. But ideally, the goal of SQ is to have a perfect center image in the center, which is, in our case, in between the speakers. I'm always pointing kind of towards in the middle of the dash because this is my kind of reference point, that little knobby thingy. That's my reference point where my center is because it is kind of in between the speakers. I know Adam is going to argue that it's not the physical distance between the speakers because like your right speaker might not sound that is coming from there. It might sound from there, it might sound from there, depending on the reflection and everything. But in this one, we're going to simplify and we're going to assume that the center is in between the physical distances of the speakers. So we see mid-range tweeters there, mid-range tweeters there, and the center is there. So what we want to achieve is to have a center of the stage in the middle. Now, what is the center of the stage? When you play any kind of recording, it is a bit more difficult with modern, I want to say synthetic recordings where everything is like mixed. But if you have a live recording where you have a band recorded live, you will have the instruments and the performers in specific places on the stage. So a very good example, I'm going to give you this one, which is Farfield 4, These Bones. Check out this song and you will notice that there's a few dudes singing in it and it's not centered properly because I would imagine that recording was made with a band standing in front and they were not literally like in the middle. So when the guy starts to sing, he starts to sing towards the left center, somewhere over there, not in the center. And then the other guy, like kind of from the middle of the song, he comes in a bit more to the right of the center. Now you will have a lot of recordings where the vocals are coming spot on right in the middle, and that is our center of the imaging. Now we achieve this mainly with EQ work, because if you remember from the previous videos, I did tell you that we perceive the direction of the sound more on the higher frequencies, more based on level rather than on time. So when you have your time kind of set perfect, the other stuff is the level. So we can bring it up or bring it down the level of the speaker to shift the center image wherever we want. And at the same time with EQ, with individual bands, we can shift only certain frequencies frequency, so only certain notes. So when you have, let's say, mid-ranges or tweeters, wherever, and they're not EQ'd, and you have one peak on one side, let's say there's a peak at 3 kilohertz on this side, and on that side there is no peak at all. So when you have musical instruments playing and everything is centered, if there's gonna be a note, a single note that is centered about 3 kilohertz, that note is not gonna be in the center, but it's gonna be on the side. So you'll have everything playing from there, and then bam, one note to the side. So this is what we call a floating center image. Now, if those peaks and dips you have in the lower frequencies, for example, in female vocals, when you have a female vocalist singing, her voice is not going to come from the very, very middle, and it's going to be bouncing all over the place depending of the note that she's actually singing. So with EQ, when we flatten the response of individual speakers, we're making sure that they're playing all the frequencies at the same level, and that's why you have that center image perfectly in the center. So imaging basically is the similarity or the differences between your left side and your right side. When we have elevated high frequencies or lower frequencies, that comes down to your house curve and your targets. That's spectral balance. Spectral balance does not affect your imaging at all, because spectral balance is just like more mid-range, less mid-range, more bass, less bass, that kind of stuff. But the difference between left and right is your imaging. Now, if you have your install something, like let's assume that this tweeter has a massive reflection from this window. So even if I'm going to tune it flat, that reflection from this window might pull my image to the side. So when you do your final adjustments by ear, after the microphone, after RTA, after everything, you're kind of trying to evaluate, do you have any reflections that are pulling your image, or do you have more levels somewhere that is pulling your image? So you can use various tracks for that. I use Emma positioning tracks, where you have left, center, center, and right, like 5 different positions. Now, coming back to that thing about the center image being in front of your steering wheel, your hard left and your hard right are defined by the speaker positions. Not 100%, but let's assume, let's simplify and say that my hard right cannot be further than my right speaker, which is this, and left exactly the same over there. So to achieve the widest possible stage, what you need the biggest distances between left and right, and that is done by having your tweeters here, and most likely mid-ranges, you can have them here as well. So the more physically they're to the side, the wider your stage is. Now obviously in my case, I have mid-ranges over there and tweeters there, so my stage could be wider if I would utilize these tweeters instead of those. Now in Emma, there's other things such as distance to the stage or stage depth and that kind of stuff, room information. So one thing that I want to touch is stage depth. And what that is if you listen to a recording and you kind of close your eyes, where does the sound coming from? Is it coming like from here? Is it coming from that dot, or is it coming from in front of your car, like when they say on the bonnet or whatever? But I don't know, it's kind of debatable, but my personal experience is that the depth of the stage is in the recording and not in your tuning or production. It's more to do with the recording. If you have a very quality recording and is recorded from a distance, it's gonna sound as if it's coming from much further away. Now there's another like stage height and that kind of stuff. We're not gonna touch that. But the main thing that I want to tell you is that center image is not in front of the steering, because if your hard right is over there and your center is over there, you have only this amount of physical space for your right side instruments to fit. So if you have a band which is wide band and you have a lot of instruments everywhere, all the right side instruments are going to be filled in this little space, whereas everything on the left are going to be from here all the way to over there. So it's disproportionate when you have your left side basically covering 75% of everything and your right side just this tiny little bit. That's why the center should be right over there, in between your hard left and your hard right, and not in front of this. Now, if you don't care about imaging, if you don't care potentially about SQ, because SQ is correct reproduction of the original material. So if the original material is a live band playing with various instruments, and if you would sit like in the middle in between the speakers, that's what you have at home when you have stereo speaker pair. You have all that band in front, and you have left, right, and everything. When you're sitting in the car, it's more like if you are in a venue, but you're unlucky and you didn't have the center seats. So you have your seats slightly to the side of the stage where most of people are, because in a venue, only a small amount of people can fit in the center row, and exactly the same in a cinema. You have much more people sitting to the side of the stage, one or other side, rather than very, very in the middle. Now, for concerts, it's a bit different because the distance to the stage is much, much further away. But in a car, we have a bit closer. So in a car, we're sitting to the side of the stage, but our stage is still in between the speakers. And I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, if you think that your center should be in front of you when you drive, like over there, uh, go for it. Whatever makes you happy. Because sound is subjective. You do what you want to do. You tune however you want. If you like your rears playing at the same level as the fronts, go for it. If you like to time align your system to the middle of the car, go for it. Do whatever you want. What I'm trying to do in these video series and in general on my channel is to explain all the SQ principles that are for a single seat tune, which is the driver's seat. Me, I am the driver, and the best sound is for me. So my center is over there and not over here. And I just hope after this video, I'm not gonna have any more comments saying that whatever I preach is incorrect. Yeah, that's it. Quick video. Thank you very much, guys. I'll see you in the next one.